Hello once again, RLD faithful. With this new setup, I don't think I have to. For some reason, the stream just kicks on right as soon as I start the stream software instead of having to click on the YouTube side too, which is so nice. Anyway, you guys don't care about that. Welcome, everyone, both of you. I wanted to get a stream together real quick just to have kind of a rundown on the matchups and on some of the players, kind of maybe help us get our our in-season helmets on, mindsets on beforehand, as opposed to possibly making some haphazard or whatever, just ill-informed decisions week one, and then having everything come online in like week two. Like, oh right, don't want to be so rash or reactionary, benching Stephon Diggs going into week one because he had a bad matchup. That was stupid. I won't do that again. Let's go ahead and try to be in mid-season form going into week one instead of coming out of week one. All right, so I'm just going to run through the matchups that we have kind of in start time order for week one and talk about what I think is noteworthy with each game for a few minutes here and there. And if you guys, anybody out there on the stream, wants to throw out some questions, somebody says LFG. Okay, we're about to G. Don't worry. If you guys want to throw out some questions, whether it's about game matchup I'm talking about or another player that you're unsure about week one for whatever reason, by all means, lob them at me in the stream chat. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and dive in with the season opener, and it should be a tasty morsel. Lions at Chiefs on Thursday night, 7:20 Central. It's a big game. That is a big game. Obviously, it's a big game for the defending champs. This is probably the biggest game for the Detroit Lions in the last 25 years, and I think that might be conservative, frankly. This is everything. Like, the Lions, considering how beloved and, confident everyone is, the team seems to be in Dan Campbell and what he's doing there. He is a guy who has started 0-10 and then 1-7 his first 2 years on the job. The Lions need a solid start to 2023 in the worst way. And what do they get? What do the schedule makers give them? Chiefs on the road right off the bat. Thanks a lot, guys. Really appreciate it. Some Packers fans making the schedules for the NFL, apparently. So the Lions are going to be really juiced up. You have to assume, like, they are going to come out like they are storming the beaches of Normandy, because they kind of are. Like, if they don't have to win this game, for sure. I mean, the NFC North is totally up for grabs. I think every team has a shot, for sure. So they don't have to win this game, but they need to not get blown out, for sure. They need to be within, keep it like a one-score game well into the second half. Make it clear that they can hang with a team like Kansas City. So I mean, for fantasy, apropos of nothing per se, but if you're having trouble deciding, whether to go with like a, kind of a fringier guy like Sam Laporta or whatever, maybe that can help, can sway you one way or the other. I think that week one is going to be, I mean, obviously, not going to talk about studs. Like Amon-Ra St. Brown, you're starting him every week. He's Amon-Ra St. Brown. But David Montgomery, he's a lot of guys RB3. I think you really want to start him this week. The only thing that makes sense here, especially with Chris Jones out for the Chiefs, is the Lions are going to take it to the Chiefs on the ground. They've got Frank Ragnow, the All-Pro center. Halapoulivaati Vaitai is now healthy, the guard that missed a bunch of time last year. So the strength is running the ball. This is a team that their identity is running the ball. They're going to run the ball. They're going to run it at the Chiefs. And are they going to do that with a very exciting but undersized rookie running back in Jahmyr Gibbs, or are they going to use the free agent veteran hammer that they brought in as a one-to-one replacement for Jamal Williams in David Montgomery? I think this is a big game for Montgomery statistically. I don't see a way that he doesn't leave with like at least 80 yards and a touchdown, potentially quite more. Obviously, week one season openers, crazy things can happen. So definitely like Montgomery here. If you have him, find a way to get him in the lineup. This is a great spot for him. If you went, cheapo quarterback, Goff is absolutely fine here too. The Chiefs defense isn't super imposing. And game script is going to be encouraging of a fair amount of throwing, especially in the second half. Gibbs, I mean, if you took Jahmyr Gibbs especially in like full PPR. Like he was probably your third round pick in like 12 teams and up. Like I'm not going to say you should sit him. I'm certainly not going to say that. This should be a good matchup. But again, consider the context. He is a rookie, and this is a big game for the Lions. It would not super surprise me if Gibbs had kind of a quieter debut in a spot like this. It's nothing against Gibbs. Certainly don't think it would be indicative of anything for him as the season goes along in terms of informing like, oh, were we too high on Gibbs? No, we weren't too high on Gibbs. But in week one, I'm just saying, don't be surprised if he lets you down with something along the lines of like 60 total yards and 3 grabs, 3 receptions, 2 or 3 receptions even. Again, the Lions have to be thinking that their best path here is to keep Mahomes off the field. How do you do that? You run the ball. You smash the ball at the Chiefs nonstop as much as you can. Kenneth Walker, RB1 season. It's possible. I mean, when you're saying RB1 in a 12-team league, you're talking about a top 12 finish. He's going right around there as is. So RB1 season, I frankly think it's going to happen. I think he's going to get into the top 10 for sure. I'm not that worried about Charbonnet. Certainly a lot of people are, and that's totally valid. I'm going to trust that Pete Carroll is the guy that he's shown us to be for his whole run in Seattle, which is he wants to have a guy. He's an old head for sure. He wants to have a running back that he trusts and feeds the ball, and a guy who like gets stronger as the game goes on, all that rah-rah stuff. And that's the Seahawks identity. It has been since Pete showed up there from USC. Now is Kenneth Walker like some grizzled vet relative to Zach Charbonnet? No, he's not. In fact, I think they're the same age, even though Walker has a year on him in NFL experience. But again, like where I think backfields all over the NFL. Yes, you can look at it and go, "Ooh, this is pretty gross." Where I think we really made a bit of a mountain out of a molehill with the Charbonnet arrival in Seattle. A little bit. Like I'm certainly every bit as worried about like Tank Bigsby in Jacksonville. And talk about some other running backs that are getting less attention as like potential vultures. There's other guys I'm more worried about than I am Kenneth Walker in Seattle for sure. Doubling back. All right, so that's the Lions, and then like Sam Laporta. If you've been listening to me, God help you, and you have Laporta as your tight end 1, or you're thinking about starting him, I'm okay with it. I'm definitely going to start him in a couple leagues. He's a rookie tight end in a huge game. He might get you like a cheapo short touchdown. That's close to 50-50 odds for me. That could definitely happen. But is he going to go, baby Gronk day 1 against the Chiefs? Probably not. I think you're hoping for like whatever 3 for 30 and a touchdown, which at these days can't kick it out of bed. Obviously Chiefs, Mahomes, Kelsey, yeah, whatever. Sky Moore has been kind of propped up in the last few days as having earned a starting job there in Kansas City. This is a very big game for Sky Moore. If you are a Sky Moore believer, hey, you could absolutely be right. I'm not, but, agree to disagree. Sky Moore, in particular, I really think needs to come out and have a good game Thursday night against the Lions. I think he needs to give them a reason to wait on Rashee Rice, because Rashee Rice has been nominally named a reserve player, bench player for now. But if Mahomes doesn't have a big game and also Sky Moore is invisible in the box score, you can pretty much start the timer on Rashee Rice phasing into this offense, because it's going to happen. Sky Moore has to start hot right away. So keep an eye on that. And if you wanna take a shot, no better place than here, because Sky Moore has to keep the door closed on Rashee Rice starting Thursday night, and you have to think that he knows that. Kadarius Toney, I'm all right with it. You never know. I've been saying it for a couple weeks now. I'm really getting to the point where I feel like Kadarius Toney is fancy Curtis Samuel, and in the Chiefs offense, hey, there's nothing wrong with that. But I just feel like there's going to be peaks and valleys for days. Even if he maintains health, I have a tough time imagining him like securing like consistent volume. I just don't see it. So, but I could be wrong, and obviously throw him out there week 1. He's trending toward playing. He's back in practice. So whatever. All right, moving on from the Lions Chiefs. And hey, if anybody has a question about the, which Lions or Chiefs kicker to stream or something gross like that, throw it out there. I will ignore you, but you can throw it out there. All right, next game. Bengals at Browns. All right, so Bengals at Browns. I mean, what do you say about the Bengals? Like, you're gonna start Chase, obviously. You're gonna start Higgins, obviously. Burrow, obviously. Mixon. You took Mixon in the third, maybe fourth round if you got lucky. The Browns' run D last year was very soft. Sure, put him out there. You know, draft capital kind of dictates that you're not going to sit him week one. But again, like, keep in mind, Mixon and the Bengals got just within a sea hair of divorce in the offseason before Mixon relented and restructured. So he needs a hot start here. Leave. Oh, is that Niners? My buddy Niners Empire. Leave Mixon alone. Hey, don't tell me to leave Mixon alone. Tell Chase Brown to leave Mixon alone because he's coming. He's coming, buddy. You better believe it. On the Brown side, get Elijah Moore out there, man. We need if you took Elijah Moore because you bought the hype, you bought that getting out of New York was the fix for this guy. Get him out there. I think there's every reason to expect that he is going to pull even with Cooper in terms of target share very early on. Yeah, I'm totally down with starting Elijah Moore week one. I think if the Browns are going to prove that this Deshaun Watson experiment is viable and is going to hold water, what better place, obviously, than to start with punching the Bengals in the mouth in their home opener. So I like Elijah Moore. Njoku's a fine start. Again, David Njoku quietly had 20 red zone targets last year, second most among all tight ends in the NFL last year. Only got the 4 touchdowns. I mean, most of those targets obviously came with Jacoby Brissett. He's not around anymore. Maybe if that trend in the red zone remotely continues, which Elijah Moore is a lot of things, a red zone menace. I don't know that I necessarily see it. Njoku could be a nice piece in 2023. Why not trot him out there? Unless you have, Kittle or Andrews or Kelsey. Yeah, and Deshaun Watson, I mean, I think Deshaun Watson is, I've said it recently, is a strong candidate for like a top 5, top 6 finish. The Bengals aren't a super imposing matchup. And again, this is a big game for Watson. If we have to assume he wants to prove that he's for real. He's the guy. What better spot than here? Texans at Ravens. I think the Texans are going to give the Ravens a game. The Ravens defense in fantasy was good, but in reality, definitely hemorrhaged yards at times last year. They lose Calais Campbell in free agency to the Falcons. I mean, they make some other additions too. It's not like the Ravens defense is projecting to be problematic, but I don't think this is going to be a blowout. I really don't. Maybe I'm sure the Ravens probably pull away in the second half. I mean, if you have like C.J. Stroud in one QB, you're not thinking about starting him in Superflex. You're stuck with starting him, so whatever. Pray for the best. As far as Texans receivers, I know we're all gassed up on Tank Dell, and he's worth throwing out there too if you really feel good about him. I think it's Nico Collins for me. If you're looking at a potential Texans receiver to gamble on week one, he's year 3. He's a major size speed guy. I think Nico Collins week 1 would be the way I would go, and I for sure like Schultz. Schultz has one of the potentially larger target shares of kind of like the discount tier tight ends. And our buddy Dreamkiller, of course, says fearless forecast. You can put Schultz down for 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns. So I mean, you got to take that. You got to run and take that right to the bank and get Schultz out there week 1 for sure. Let's see what else. Dameon Pierce. So obviously the arrow's pointing up on Dameon Pierce pretty good, and we as a fantasy consortium are getting really high on Dameon Pierce. Could be a coming out party here week 1. I mean, again, the Texans' offensive line appears to be significantly improved, perhaps much improved from 2022. I have nothing but optimism for the insertion of the D'Amico Ryans and Bobby Slowick, grafting that piece of the Niners coaching staff onto what they're doing in Houston. I think it's going to work. I think it's going to work right away. Are they going to beat the Ravens? No. But Dameon Pierce rumbling for like 100 and a touchdown, solidly in play. So I'm definitely into him this week. And again, like in week 1, like going as the season plugs along, like we're going to know like, if the Ravens defense is for real, the Steelers defense is for real, whatever. we don't know. Like week one, you're flying. It's fog of war. Like you don't know what the matchups are really going to bear. Like there's going to be a half dozen like shocking outcomes that we're going to have to quickly recalibrate for. The Ravens defense could completely wash the Texans out. That could happen. The Texans could go out and hang 30 points on the Ravens. That could happen. Neither would surprise me here. Obviously, if it's the latter, Dameon Pierce is going to be a big part of that. On the Ravens side, I mean, Lamar is going to smash. You have to figure. I mean, he's the king of September in fantasy football. So, yeah, the concern, obviously, the small concern is that if the Ravens are serious about throwing more, which they sure seem to be, is that going to come at the expense of the running backs or of Lamar's rushing yards? I don't know. I could see it kind of both ways. Again, if the Ravens are serious and they follow through on pumping up Lamar's passing volume, I just have a tough time. The Ravens at their core are still a smash mouth football team to me. Like this is still Jim Harbaugh we're talking about, John Harbaugh. So I mean, are they going to scale back like Dobbins and Edwards in rushing situations? I don't know. I mean, obviously, like on plays that break down, Lamar is going to do what Lamar does. He's going to go take chunks of yardage. But like design runs, I could see that tapering off. I don't see how it doesn't. In fact, as far as other Ravens pieces, I'm not super into Andrews. And by the way, guys, Andrews owners, Andrews is banged up right now. We don't really know what's going on, but he's missed practice so far this week with some sort of undisclosed issue. They're expecting him back at practice on Wednesday of this week. So Andrews is getting iffy. Between that and the fact that new offensive coordinator, bunch of new receivers. I mean, obviously, if you took Andrews week, in whatever the second or third round, if he's playing, you're starting him. But I don't know. I don't know that I would be super pumped up for what Andrews is going to give you in week one at the moment. As for the receivers, I mean, if you're a Flowers believer, you're a Flowers believer, and he's probably like your wide receiver 3, maybe 4. The Texans aren't super imposing. Up to you. I mean, I have not been like a table banger for Zay Flowers, but obviously they're out there. If you're a believer, get him out there. There's no reason really not to. Bateman's foot is it looks like he's going to play in week one. He says his foot is 99% healthy. Okay, Rashad. But could he be on a snap count? Absolutely. Could he be a surprise game day inactive? Yes, absolutely. So if you have Flowers and you're into him, you're a believer, you should probably plan to play him if you can find room in your lineup to get him out there. OBJ, he's kind of on the Michael Thomas track for me. Like, I don't know that the Ravens have like a substantial role in the offense for him. If I'm an OBJ owner, God help me, then I am going to wait and see for sure with OBJ. And if you took OBJ, he's like your wide receiver 4 or 5. You shouldn't be planning to start him week one anyway. Yeah, could OBJ have a throwback game and randomly blow up for like 90 and a score? Sure, anything could happen. Again, it's week one. But I wouldn't want to mess with it. Dobbins should smash. I mean, the Texans defense is definitely still a work in progress. He's in a contract year. Like all running backs are just, they try to trap them into being always in contract years. Obviously, Dobbins and the Ravens aren't BFFs right now, but the offensive line is elite. It's one of the top 3 or 4 units in the league. Like I said, this is still a team that wants to #establish it. Start Dobbins. I have very little concerns about Dobbins' ability to go get you a touchdown this week. All right, on to Buccaneers-Vikings. I just get the feeling, this isn't really based on anything in particular, but I just get the feeling this game is going to be close. I'm really fading the Vikings overall. I'm concerned about Cousins possibly hitting like an age wall and putting a bit of a damper on the rest of the offense. Not JJ, because JJ, the volume, only so many bad things can happen when you're getting 160, 175 targets. But like Hawkinson, obviously I've been out on Hawkinson for weeks. Anyway, week one, I know, again, draft capital, week one, like you can't start ducking matchups until you know what the opposing teams are. The Buccaneers defense was still pretty darn stout last year, especially against the run, and they kept darn near everybody together on the defensive side of the ball. the Vikings' identity is not in running the ball. You know, they're gonna generate a ton of passing volume again, we think. And as I've been saying for a couple months now, major talent concerns about Alexander Mattison. If you took Mattison in like the 5th round, you're probably all in on starting in week 1. You don't, you know, you're not going to start whatever like Kendre Miller or some fringe guy over him. But I think Mattison needs like a touchdown or bust in week 1. I do not see him running roughshod on the Buccaneers at all. Anything north of like 60, 65 total yards, I think you have to consider it a win, frankly. And really, Madison's crusade to keep Ty Chandler and Myles Gaskin off the field starts Sunday. Like, it would be wonderful if Madison came out and gave like even like a 4.4 yard per carry average, something along those lines, to kind of give the Vikings, running back coach and offensive coordinator some hope that that he can be efficient enough when called upon to handle most of the volume. He needs to show that early on, or Madison owners, the prophecy that I have laid out could come to bear sooner rather than later. Hawkinson, again, song remains the same. Like, you're not going to sit him. It wouldn't super surprise me if Hawkinson had like a big game week 1. Defenses are generally still gelling kind of loose in week 1, so he gets the big money. I did actually just see that he is a little bit banged up. It doesn't sound like he's at risk of not going in week 1, but I think he's got a back issue or something right now. So keep an eye on that. He did just get paid. It's week 1. Wouldn't be the first time that a player randomly came up game day inactive last second. Obviously JJ. Cousins, if you have Cousins, again, it's probably like a Jared Goff level guy where he's like your cheapo QB1 or a high end QB2. I mean, the volume is nice, but at this point, like, Kirk is such a negative in obviously any kind of value add rushing wise. I don't have a lot of faith that his touchdown percentage is going to really rebound. It's just hard to get excited about it. The odds are very strong that he's either your backup and then whatever, start your starter, or even like Anthony Richardson. I'd probably be more excited about starting week 1 than Cousins, because how exciting is 240 yards and 2 touchdowns? It's not bad, but you want, to me, I want a little more upside out of a quarterback, especially in week 1, when again defenses are generally going to be as soft as they're going to be all year. On the Tampa Bay side, here we go. I mean, we're going to find out if Baker Mayfield and Dave Canales can rekindle some of the Geno Smith Seahawks 2022 magic or not here pretty quick. I don't really want to be anywhere nearby week 1 to find out. I want to definitely see the chips fall before and have any Buccaneers that I do own safely tucked away on the bench. Godwin, obviously, especially in full PPR, you kind of have to start him. But I'm going to keep saying it, like, until I see otherwise, I just don't trust that Godwin is going to put out the kind of volume that I think a lot of Godwin owners, drafters, are foreseeing for him. This is Baker Mayfield we're talking about, guys. Like, this is a guy who getting to like 225 yards passing, 230 yards passing, that's a pretty darn good day at the office for this guy. Like, if the Bucks get, again, kind of like with Lions versus Chiefs, if the Bucks get into like a punch for punch with the Vikings, they're going to lose. Trying to chuck the ball around the yard. Like, their only hope is to really kind of mitigate how much they rely on Mayfield through the defense, through running the ball. So the same goes for Mike Evans. Like, it's hard to get excited about Evans, especially a guy like Evans who, he needs a quarterback that is going to give him 50-50 money balls, downfield, preferably one-on-one. And I don't see how it makes sense for the Buccaneers to seek to put Baker Mayfield in situations like that if they're trying to win. Are the Buccaneers trying to win? I don't know. But even if they're tanking, are they gonna be hyper aggressive on offense? I struggle to see it. Rachaad White's fine. He's kind of like Montgomery. He's been like an RB2, but kind of more RB3 running back for a lot of teams so far in 2023 drafts. If you've been nicked by like the Breece Hall situation or Jonathan Taylor, I don't think you need to be particularly skittish about putting White out there. You know, game script could get away from them here for sure. I also wouldn't be super stoked about it. But if Rachaad White has a claim to like 3 down type volume, then let's find out. You know, if you that's why you took him. So if he comes out and just keeps Tucker and Keyshawn Vaughn and whatever the rest of the Jags that they have filling out the depth chart. I said Rachaad White. Did I say Rondale White? I'm pretty sure I said Rachaad White. If I didn't, apologies. I meant Rachaad White. Yeah, the Buccaneers offense is very, very iffy. The offensive line is also very iffy. They lost Shaq Mason in free agency. They lost Donovan Smith. Ryan Jensen obviously has what could be a career-ending injury. The backup center, Robert Hainsey, is looking unlikely for week one. It could be kind of apocalyptic, frankly, for Rachaad White. But also he could get so much volume that he's able to offset it and get, kind of grind his way to some fantasy numbers a la, 2022, 2021, Najee Harris, just through sheer volume. So I'm not super excited about it, but if you're in a pinch, you could do a lot worse. All right, so from there on to Cardinals Commanders. I sure feel like you can start pretty much any commander not named Terry McLaurin. Sam Howell, I have Howell as a backup in a couple leagues. I'm even looking at starting him in a couple of leagues, including the RLD, because the matchup just looks too good. And you got to figure, like, Bieniemy and wants to come out and make an emphatic statement in what looks like a layup matchup, week one at home against a DOA Cardinals team, defense, all of it. Sam Howell could dunk on the Cardinals kind of relentlessly in week one. Would not super surprise me. Brian Robinson, Antonio Gibson, you probably don't want to start both, but you probably don't have both either. You have one of those guys, throw him out there. I especially like Robinson, frankly. Like the Brian Robinson, the coaching staff kind of fell in love with him. Obviously, he had got shot through the knee last year. He sure seems like he's kind of their guy, and he should obviously put some significant volume down this week. If game script goes the way that we're kind of thinking that it will. I would be surprised if the Commanders didn't have one of the if the Cardinals weren't one of the bigger dogs in going into week one. So Robinson is like an RB3, whatever. If you're in a pinch, you got dinged by like Romeo Dobbs injury or Taylor or Breece Hall, whatever. You're skittish with those guys. Can definitely plug Brian Robinson in here, no problem. Terry. He is not practicing. Obviously, he has the turf toe from second to last week of the preseason, I believe. Whatever, the big Sam Howell coming out game, I think, against the Ravens. Anyway, he's not practicing. Even if he goes, you got to figure snap game, and game script is going to quickly turn away from even needing to throw the ball. And McLaurin might not play. It's turf toe. It's not an issue that they want to exacerbate into becoming like a season-long chronic thing by putting him out there in situations where he doesn't need to be out there. Dotson. So I think Gibbs in the stream chat says Dotson. Yeah, Dotson. Probably Dotson here. Dotson just seems to have a nose for the end zones. He goes for 7 touchdowns on 35 receptions as a rookie. I think he got in the end zone another couple times this preseason. At a certain point, you got to just take a guy at his word that he's good at scoring touchdowns. And now with McLaurin dinged up and seemingly a 50-50 at best to play here, yeah, got nothing but love for Dotson here. You can trot him out as a wide receiver 3 for sure. On the Cardinals side, we just don't really know, but we have to assume the worst. Like, even if the Cardinals are trying, they're now going to be trying with like Josh Dobbs or Clayton Tune behind a really patchwork Frankenstein offensive line where they're starting like 3 true left tackles up front. It's real weird. So the Cardinals are either tanking, and you don't want to be near any of this, or they're trying, but they're trying with some real piecemeal weirdo stuff. We don't know who the quarterback's even going to be yet. They haven't announced it. They're hashtag gamesmanship. Neither would surprise me. I really don't have a feel for whether they're going to go with Dobbs or they're going to go with Tune. I guess I would lean Tune just because he's been in camp longer. But they clearly got Dobbs because they favored him, explicitly, specifically over a worn out over the hill Colt McCoy. So either of those guys could go. I think that I just don't for Hollywood Brown. He's really a tough one here because again, we don't know. We don't know how good the Cardinals are going to be at extracting whatever there is to extract from this offense, whether it's Dobbs, whether it's Tune, behind this crappy offensive line. We just don't know. We don't know how committed they even are to Hollywood Brown at this point, since Hollywood was brought in, as kind of an olive branch to Kyler Murray, and now it's a new regime, and we don't know how they feel about Kyler Murray. So it's definitely a weird situation there. But if you step back and look at it, like, I'm not a big Rondale Moore believer. And again, now he's been inherited. The new staff has inherited him. How strongly they're going to feel about him, I have no idea. Happens all the time that a guy with like middling draft capital, like Moore has, who hasn't done anything, new regime, new coaching staff, guy is just plummets. So that wouldn't super surprise me. I'd rather have Greg Dortch straight up than Rondale Moore at this point. If you're in the kind of league where where desperation dictates that you're futzing around with the dregs of the Cardinals receiver corps. And Michael Wilson. Michael Wilson's the only grocery that these guys actually bought themselves. Like everything else they inherited. So I like Wilson as much as you can like a chronically injured, middle round receiver. Wilson missed more games than he played in college at Stanford, but he certainly looks the part. And he's the only guy that's over like 5'9" of note in this receiver corps. So yeah, definitely want to keep Michael Wilson on your radar, especially early on, if the Cardinals drastically exceed expectations. Hollywood, I mean, at the end of the day, you have to figure that the Cardinals are going to throw it at least like 25, 30 times. I have a hard time seeing Hollywood not getting to like at least 6, 7, maybe even 8 targets. Gotta keep in mind, like, Hollywood was very briefly, was a volume monster last year. Yes, different everything, Kyler, all that. But he has done it in fits and starts before, and there's a lot of opportunity here. So if you're feeling frisky, if you want to roll the dice and start Hollywood as like a wide receiver 3 or like a second flex or something, I don't hate it, but it is very risky. Hollywood could donut on you very hard week 1. Big range of outcomes here. It doesn't look like Zach Ertz is going to go. If you want to throw Trey McBride out there, hey, go nuts. Again, inherited by a new regime. We don't really know how that's going to play out. I'm not going anywhere near James Conner. The Commanders' run D was the toughest, the nastiest in the league last year. It's a bad offensive line that's not really built to run the ball well. Avoid. You have to sit James Conner week 1. You have to sit James Conner week 1. You have to sit James Conner week 1. Don't do it. All right, on to Jags Colts. I think the Colts are going to get the upset here. I really do. I think the Jags are wobbling a little bit, and I think the Colts are going to come out and surprise some people early on. They're not going to win a lot of games, but I think they can come out and in their home opener catch the Jaguars flat-footed and punch them in the mouth. Richardson, you probably didn't take him as your QB1, but if for some reason your starter has like a matchup that you're not really super into, you're not going to start him over like Josh Allen, but obviously Josh Allen has a less than ideal matchup, which we'll get to later with the Jets. You could do a lot worse than Richardson, who is, you have to figure he's going to run for a touchdown, especially with no Jonathan Taylor. He might run for 2. So that alone can get him into quarterback 1 territory potentially. There's a lot of buzz that this guy could maybe be ready to play some form of quarterback, like early on, like day 1. So I mean, it's definitely risky. But home opener against a whatever, kind of just a middle of the road defense, I don't hate it. As for the Colts running back situation, obviously Taylor's out. We don't know what's going to happen. I mean, this is sprinting straight toward full-blown committee city. Evan Hull and Deion Jackson are the nominal favorites to. They're the only guys, as of a few days ago that could possibly be the guys. Deion Jackson is big and fast, but he hasn't been very efficient, or at least he wasn't last year behind really crappy Colts offensive line. But there's not a lot of reason to feel like he's going to suddenly turn it on and you know, announce that he's going to be replacing Jonathan Taylor and give them a reason to ship him out of town. Hull is kind of interesting. He's definitely, you know, more of like a passing down back. Like that's where we have to assume his value is going to be centered in the NFL. Although going back and looking at his tape, like some of the knocks on him coming out of college was that he wasn't that good between the tackles. He looked all right to me. But whatever, like they're not going to put more than like 15 touches on either of these guys in week one. And that was before. Now it looks like Zach Moss has a better than 50% chance of seeing the field week one. I would just steer clear of all of it. Like you can get real cute thinking that your Deion Jackson or your Evan Hull or your Zach Moss is going to be the guy week one and be completely wrong and have that guy just completely disappear on you. I wouldn't go near any of it really, because you know, unless you get like a late bead that you really trust from like, you know, whatever, Schefter or Rappaport or something. At the moment, I don't trust any of these guys at all to be putting them in the lineups in week one, unless I'm just desperate. As for Colts receivers, I just don't love Pittman at all. You probably took him as like a wide receiver 3. I would look at anybody else. I just don't trust it at all. Pittman's whole gambit is volume. That's the one thing that we just can't ask Richardson to provide at this point in his development. Get away from Pittman. Like you're hoping for a touchdown. That's really the whole path for Pittman to me. I might even want to start like Josh Downs over him, honestly. Like I'm that reticent to go near Pittman, at least early on, at least until we've really seen something from Richardson as a passer. I would go Zay Flowers. I would go Jordan Addison, Traylon Burks, like a lot of guys that are on fantasy benches right now. I would go over Pittman in week one for sure. On the Jags side, the Jags come in kind of underpowered. They lose Jawan Taylor in free agency to the Chiefs. Cam Robinson, the left tackle, is going to be out for all of September. So they're down their 2 starting tackles, and they're starting a rookie, I believe, at right tackle. It was a day 1 or early day 2 pick, but still he's a rookie. I don't know that the Jags are going to come out and really impose their will offensively here. I don't super see it. I could definitely be wrong, but between that and the fact that a lot of people are just 100% sure that Calvin Ridley's going to come in, and regardless of who else has to suffer for him to get his, he's going to get his. If that's how you feel, hey, I mean, obviously you burned like a 3rd to 5th round pick, depending on how early in the summer you drafted. If you're sure about him, hey, get your guy out there if he's your wide receiver 2 or even your wide receiver 1. For me, I mean, I don't even have any Ridley, but if I did, I want to see how this target share is really going to break down, is really going to bear out before I would be super confident. Again, Ridley, like, if you took him, you have to have some measure of faith in him. Between the offensive line being like we have to brace for the possibility that the Jags really struggle to keep Lawrence clean week one, and again, like there's a lot of guys that were fantasy relevant last year: Zay Jones, Kirk, Ingram, and now Ridley slides in on top of that. I would like to be able to have the option to see it first before I am going and putting those guys in the lineup. And Christian Kirk, yeah, again, the tackles are a concern. Maybe the Jags deal with it seamlessly, and you know, Lawrence isn't under a lot of pressure week one. I'm kind of betting it's going to go the other way though. So Kirk, I mean, Zay Jones, if you took him, like there's no way you were even considering starting him in week one anyway. He's a deep reserve guy. But Kirk is a guy that's going to sniff some lineups. I wouldn't be super stoked. Kirk was very effective in the red zone last year. So even if he has a quiet day like target wise, he would still have a decent shot at scoring a touchdown. But I just wouldn't feel super stoked about it. It could definitely goose egg pretty hard on you. Evan Ingram, I kind of have a theory that especially like non-blocking tight ends, which in fantasy is like 97% of them, that sometimes bad offensive line play can actually kind of juke up their target totals. We saw kind of the Tyler Higbee effect last year with Tyler Higbee, at times with Tyler Conklin as well. So I'm not as skittish with Ingram for that reason, but again, like Evan Ingram was a nobody. He was on waiver wires everywhere going into like December of last year, and then he goes nuts down the stretch. So how much you really trust that he's going to be the number 2 or number 3 even option in the offense, I leave up to you. Yeah, I mean, if you took Ingram as your tight end 1, there's no reason to duck this matchup, but I'm not super stoked about it. And then ETN, whatever, you took him as like your RB1 or RB2, you got to start him. Evan Ingram may be the Kadarius Toney of the Jaguars. Yeah, I kind of see it. Ingram has had a checkered injury history so far in the NFL, like Kadarius. Kind of see it. He does have a nice fat new contract, though, so that would seem to suggest that he's going to stay involved in the offense, at the very least. All right, from there, we go to Niners-Steelers. I think this could be another upset. I think the Steelers could get this done. The Steelers took care of the Bengals in the opener last year. Yeah, I do not think the Niners are going to win this one handily. As for Pickett, I would not start him week 1. Obviously, this is a real rough draw for a guy who's not a rookie, but he didn't get a full complement of starts last year. Offense may still be kind of a work in progress for sure. So whatever, if 1 QB, you weren't starting Pickett anyway. Elsewhere, like Deontay and Pickens, whatever. Like neither of them really jump off the page here for me. Pickett could definitely scuffle against a ferocious 49ers defense. I'm really having trouble getting daylight between Pickens and Deontay, like a lot of people are. You have to figure that Pickens is coming for Deontay in terms of like target share in year 2. The question is to what degree. We're gonna find out. We're gonna start finding out starting week 1. I don't have really any meaningful feel for how that's gonna bear out, at least early on. If I had to guess, I would lean toward the more veteran player, lead toward Johnson, but Johnson really struggled in 2022 for the Steelers. They also may be more keen to get Pickens more involved now. Neither scenario would really surprise me. Najee's a go. You got to start Najee. On the Niners side, Kittle often banged up. Already is banged up. George Kittle pops up on the injury report with a minor back issue, but he worked off to the side today at Niners practice. It's minor, but it's starting early for Kittle owners, unfortunately, in 2023. Obviously, whatever. If he's playing, you're starting him, but just FYI. CMC, he's CMC. Debo, I don't think there's any reason to be especially squeamish with the Niners. They are a tough defense, especially with TJ Watt healthy. But if you're in the Debo boat, you gotta stay in the boat. Ayuk, whatever. He's your wide receiver 3. You're gonna start him. The end. Titans and Saints. There are some interesting guys here. So Treylon Burks, who we briefly thought like that's it, that's his season. Like he just tore his knee completely in half, and we'll see him in 2024. Not so. And in fact, he's already. I went and looked right before I started. He's off the injury report entirely for the Titans. So Burks, I mean, is he going to get a full snap count? I kind of doubt it. But he is. Other than that, is a full go for week 1. I don't know that he's a super sneaky play, but given where a lot of people were getting him the last couple weeks in drafts because of the knee thing, he got picked up as a lot of people's like wide receiver 4s, in some leagues like wide receiver 5. Like if you have some crummy draw, matchups or injuries or whatever, definitely do not hate Burks as a flex play here. It's risky because again, the knee issue, like he's off the injury report. Well, okay, the Titans are kind of hard nosed like that, and like if they seem to be culturally more inclined to get players back out there and off their injury report more than other teams are at this point. They don't really seem to kid glove their players as much. But again, yeah, if you're in a spot where you need a flex guy, I like Burks here for sure. Hopkins, whatever, you took him as like a 2 or 3, you got to start him. Derrick Henry, the matchup isn't really imposing. The issue, obviously, more is how bad is his offensive line? We know it's bad. The question is it going to be bad enough to like further drag down Henry's already probably waning efficiency? Whatever, you took him where you took him, like you're going to play him. But how much to expect here in a game where the Titans figure to be trailing probably early on? Really like the Saints' whole team this year. The defense appears to be good enough. The offense could wind up being like a top 3 unit in the NFC, I think. But the Titans are always a tough out, so it wouldn't be super surprising if they kept it within a 1-score game into the second half. But it could also go the other way quickly. I wouldn't expect like a signature 31, 50, and 2 from Henry in week 1, I guess is what I'm getting at. Chigozie Okonkwo, I think I like him. I liked him more when it looked like Burks was going to miss time, but now with Hopkins and Burks out there, Okonkwo does seem to probably be on track for like a lot of boom bust to his game. But keep in mind, this is a guy who came on really strong with like 400 yards over the second half of the season as a rookie from like, where did he go? Like East Carolina or something? Gibbs, maybe you can help me out. He really got heavily involved with that offense. Maybe he stays heavily involved. I don't know. I wouldn't want to bank on it in week 1, and hopefully you have other options, like a Sam Laporta, for example, that allow you to kind of wait and see there. But I wouldn't hate the play because Okonkwo, he definitely flashed multiple times down the stretch last year for the Titans as a true move tight end. On the Saints side, I would start Derek Carr week 1 without any reservations. You probably, again, because of his ADP, you probably don't need to do that. But I'm just saying, if for some crazy reason you like the matchup or you're thinking about it, a vote of confidence, I would not shy away from starting Derek Carr week 1 at all. I'm a big believer that this is going to work, and it's going to work right away. Olave, he's Olave. Michael Thomas, yeah, I mean, he's healthy. He's healthy-ish, as healthy as Michael Thomas ever is. And Michael Thomas is like sands through the hourglass. He's a limited time only offering in fantasy football, so you got to start him now because this might be your last chance for the year. Rashid Shaheed is a guy that you guys know I've been pounding the table for. Chig went to Maryland, of course, not East Carolina. Stupid. Thank you, Gibbs. Shaheed has been one of my main hype guys. And circling back to one of my other main hype guys from the first game, Rashee Rice. Loving Rice as much as I do, I'm not going to start him week 1. And whatever. Again, he's not a guy that you took with like the kind of draft capital where you needed to start him in week 1 in all likelihood or plan to. But if you were thinking about getting frisky, don't. Like he will be on some sort of like really throttled snap count, so it's just not worth the risk. He could goose egg pretty hard. Circling back, Rashid Shaheed. So Shaheed is a guy that I really like, and once Michael Thomas goes down and the path is cleared, I like him even more. Michael Thomas is not down yet. He is still technically upright and walking the earth as a living mortal man. So we wait. Rashid Shaheed holders, diamond hands. We hold and we wait. He did pick up a groin injury. This is a guy who has been, frankly, probably every bit as injury prone as Michael Thomas thus far in his football career, but a lot of that was happening in college where it was out of sight, out of mind. He does have 2 ACL tears to his name, including one at the end of 2021. And he now picks up a groin injury in August, but he is back at practice now, and he's not back at full speed, limited sessions and all that, but he's doing football things again, which is really all you hope for with anything like a groin or a hamstring or anything like that. So Shaheed is back in place, lurking in the reeds, waiting for Michael Thomas to do what Michael Thomas does, which is die of natural causes. So, and like Gibbs just said in the stream chat, like week 5 for Shaheed, yeah, that could be when Michael Thomas dies. Week 5, sure, that feels about right. Might even be optimistic. If you have Shaheed, continue to hold your Shaheed with enthusiasm. Running backs. Jamal Williams. Jamal Williams is a smash play week 1. Yes, the Titans' run defense is pretty stout, but you took Jamal Williams probably for like the early season scam of Kamara being out and Kendre Miller being an unknown. Jamal Williams is going to get just all the work in the world week 1. He's a very good candidate to get a touchdown. He's a pretty solid candidate to get 2 touchdowns. It would not surprise me if he kind of has earned semi-deservedly, a reputation for being just a killer inside the 5-yard line. Obviously, we know that the Lions' offensive line was every bit as much responsible for that as Williams was, if not more. But the Saints bring him in and pay him some serious money. I believe they gave him 2 years and $12 million. That's not nothing, especially for the perennially cap-strapped Saints. They brought him in with some intent to use him at least early on, and at least until they find out really what they have on their hands with Kendre Miller. Kendre Miller, he's banged up again. He's got a hamstring issue. Forget about him. Can't start him in week 1. Sad as that is. Unless, like, we find out late in the week, like, he's a full go, no restrictions, 100% participant. That's just not likely, and it would be hard to trust anyway. Jamal Williams is definitely the guy here. If you took him, and again, you're having some sort of a running back issue. There's a fair amount of those going around already this season. Get Jamal Williams out there. The volume alone will get you there. The volume alone should get you to running back 2 numbers. Really like that play a lot. Juwan Johnson, I mean, whatever. He's a best ball guy. If for some reason you need to start him, throw him out there, see what happens. He might get you 2 touchdowns. He might have 2 snaps for the whole game. He's Juwan Johnson. That's his thing. Taysom Hill, next. I don't talk about Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill is like kickers. We don't talk about Taysom Hill. All right, so on to Raiders-Broncos. God, is there a game where both teams need it more week 1 than Raiders-Broncos? It really feels like both of these teams have to have this game, and only one can. It is in Denver. Obviously, Denver in a week 1 matchup. If they're on the road, they're at a disproportionate deficit because of elevation loss. And if they're at home, they're at a disproportionate advantage because of elevation gain. They are at home. So that is definitely nice for the Broncos. Cortland Sutton for the Broncos. Why not? I mean, the Raiders are certainly no imposing draw. They're at home. All they have otherwise is like Marvin Mims and Greg Dulcich. How much volume can we really expect there? We'll find out. I mean, I don't think that Marvin Mims is on anything more than like Deshaun Jackson, all cardio duty in week 1, and might come down with a bomb or 2. But basically what I'm saying is, to the extent that they allow Russ to cook, it would seem to make sense that it would be in Cortland Sutton's direction. I'm with you. I mean, he burned me as bad as he burned anybody on, walking the earth in 2022. So I'm sick of him too. But if he's on your roster, when are you going to start him if not week 1 at home for the Raiders with no Jerry Jeudy around? This is the time. And maybe, you can sell high on him if he comes out of this with like 8 for 75 and a touchdown or something super inefficient like that. Mims is a home run swing, and I'm thinking about it in a couple of leagues myself. It's risky, obviously. It's super risky. But the one thing that Russ still does well is dial up the deep ball. He was above league average going, whatever it was. I can't remember what the number was, 30 yards or 40 yards downfield in 2022. That's kind of the only thing that he still does effectively as an NFL quarterback, possibly. Sorry, Broncos fan. Fast forward through this part, Broncos fan. So yeah, again, if you're in a pinch, Marvin Mims, it could work. It's one of the riskier plays you could make, but in a deeper league, why not roll the dice, see what happens. Greg Dulcich against the Raiders, I just don't trust it. I just don't trust it at all. And this is more of a gut thing than something concrete or a tidbit to pass along or anything like that. But unless you have to, I'd Cole Kmet, obviously Laporta, maybe even like Dalton King. Well, I won't say Kincaid. Kincaid and Dulcich are kind of similarly not guys I want to mess with week 1. I'm down on Dulcich. Your mileage may vary. Walk with Christ. Russ Wilson, just don't do it. Like there's no scenario where you should be needing to start Russ outside of Superflex in week 1. So let's just yes, maybe Sean Payton is sent from heaven to resuscitate Russell Wilson. He's a god among men. Sure, can't rule it out. Let's just wait. Russell Wilson putting up 280 yards, 300 yards, and 2 or 3 touchdowns on your bench week 1 is unfortunate. That's not going to kill you. Like you should still only lose 8 to 10 to 12 points. Worst case relative to whoever you start week 1 in like the worst case scenario. So just don't do it. On the Raiders side, Devontae, boom, go. Jacobs, boom, go. I can't really see starting Garoppolo. The Broncos defense is pretty stout. Michael Mayer, don't do it. Jacoby Myers, I mean, I see the argument, and in full PPR, like, yeah, he definitely gets your attention. Myers could catch like 75 balls, maybe even 80 balls. He obviously has past relationship with McDaniels, and he's an effective, like, intermediate, zone beater guy. He has very little like zest to him for me. The ceiling just is not really there. He's kind of like a Juju Smith-Schuster who replaced him in New England. But you can do worse. Again, in full PPR, the scam could work there. He could get you 6 or 7 grabs. It wouldn't super surprise me. But I'm not, not racing out to start my Jacoby Myers in the 1 or 2 leagues where I have him. All right, from there on to Eagles Patriots. Ooh, that's a big one. So your guess is kind of as good as mine about how this backfield is going to shake out week 1. They've done a pretty good job keeping wraps on who's going to get what, and it could even be a it takes a village approach for the Eagles backfield, at least early on, until somebody does something or somebody goes down. In full PPR, I would not be skittish starting DeAndre Swift at all. I know that there was no passing game element for the running backs in Philadelphia last year at all, and the history of heavy run first quarterbacks throwing to their running backs is not strong. But what the Eagles did in 2022 was also without precedent, and everybody believes the Eagles are every bit as good, if not better, this year. Maybe they break the mold again. Like there's not a lot of other guys to catch the ball there except for AJ, Devontae Smith, and Goddard. And maybe they don't want A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith to be glued to the field for 95% of their offensive snaps almost from wire to wire again in 2023. Maybe they realize that's probably not sustainable. So Swift, there's definitely a possibility that he comes in and they just let his receiving game chops go to waste and he only gets like 30 grabs. That would be pretty stupid, though. Are the Eagles stupid? I don't think they're stupid. This is a guy who's an elite receiver. Like, if he's healthy on this offense, how do you not start him? Penny too, though. Certainly in standard leagues, Penny is every bit as good of a play here as Swift, if not better. But with the caveat that who's the goal line back? Is it Penny or is it Hurts? I don't know that Hurts did just get paid, but I don't know that his cashing easy checks down inside the 15-10 yard line, if those days are done for him yet. So yeah, that complicates Penny's ceiling for me. Plus, he's even worse than DeAndre Swift. Really is a ticking time bomb. Like he's gonna shatter into 1,000 pieces on like a Michael Thomas type timeline in all likelihood. So on the one hand, if you own him, well, you might not have much time, so you might want to just go ahead and start him. But starting him blind, not knowing what the breakdown is going to be between him, Swift, and Gainwell, I just don't love it. And then there's Gainwell. I don't think you can start Gainwell week 1, but you certainly, as a Gainwell owner, are eager to see how much involvement he sees. Nothing would really surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me if he got like 7-8 touches. Wouldn't surprise me if he got none, honestly. I know they like him and all, but they didn't. DeAndre Swift and Rashad Penny didn't wind up there by accident. Hurts, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, you know what to do. On the Patriots side, I'm so grossed out for Ramondre Stevenson right now. Obviously, Zeke gets all the attention as like the recent cause for concern there. Although I will take that partially back. I do believe Ty Montgomery got released. Did Ty Montgomery get his unconditional release? Hold on. I didn't check on that. Bear with me, folks. He appears to be back. I'm not sure if Ty Montgomery is a New England Patriot at the moment or not. Maybe somebody can help me out in the chat and let me know. If he is, cause for even more concern, frankly, because Montgomery, while Zeke is going to be out there on third downs, I think he's going to be out there in like pass pro situations, whereas Montgomery is like a true third down receiving back. That's all he is. So basically, between those two guys, I just don't believe that Ramondre has a path back to like 70 receptions, which in PPR is hugely important to where you took him and what you're banking on from him in all likelihood. I would maybe give him like 50 receptions, maybe 45, honestly. Like the offense that bore 70 receptions for Ramondre last year was deemed a failure. So what does that mean going forward? I'm just not going to bet on, elite receiving involvement like Ramondre had last year. But again, week 1, you got to trot him out there and see what happens. I'm not super jazzed for it. The Eagles are going to be ferocious. Patriots can be a negative game script. Ramondre, though, I mean, to the extent that they're willing to whatever Ramondre's bell cow, residual bell cow share is in week 1, the Patriots will keep running the ball even if they're down by, more than one score into like mid third quarter, late third quarter, even potentially because Belichick. So Ramondre does still have claim to like ground volume, but between that and his now complicated access to goal line touches and receiving down touches, just feels like there's a lot of air out of the balloon right now. As for the receivers, got some really gross news on Juju Smith-Schuster that his knee is like now just chronically bad and could render him unable to play football at any moment. Juju Smith-Schuster did refute this on Twitter earlier today after that came out. But what else is he going to say? I think you start Juju here. Is he actually? Hold on, I didn't check my Patriots. Is Juju actually going week 1? I'm not sure. Hold on. Bear with us, folks. Elevator music. Do 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 do. I actually don't have a Juju Smith blurb at the moment. Check your Twitters. Check your Twitters to find out if Juju Smith-Schuster is playing or not. If he is a go, then I certainly don't hate him in full PPR. Outside of that, I would steer clear. Demario Douglas is banged up. He's in a non-contact jersey in practice this week. So in deeper leagues, if you're feeling cute about Demario Douglas, probably don't week 1. Mike Gesicki is out of his non-contact jersey. You could do worse, especially in deep leagues. If you need to start a Gesicki in week 1, I don't hate it. I mean, the Patriots have a well-established history of featuring tight ends in the offense, and they certainly don't have a lot going on at receiver. So there's definitely a path to Gesicki giving like back end tight end 1 volume in 2023 for sure. I said it before. I'll say it again. There are really 8 fantasy relevant tight ends that have ever had 2 700-yard seasons in the NFL right now. 7 of those guys are consensus top 10 guys, and then there's Gesicki like outside the top 20. And he goes to New England. Like there's a lot to like here as like a scam tight end type of guy, potentially season long. Outside of that in New England, Mac Jones. It's the Eagles. Like you got to duck this one. If for some reason you are exposed to Mac Jones, even in like super flex, I would try to avoid it because we just don't know what the Patriots are going to be offensively, but we know what the Eagles are going to be defensively. So if you can, I would start Jordan Love obviously over him, and we'll get to him in a bit. I would start probably even like Ryan Tannehill over Mac Jones in week 1 in Superflex. Not likely to have both those guys, but just to give a feel for how squeamish I am with Mac Jones week 1. Very. Rams Seahawks. So obviously the big piece there is Cooper Kupp going to play? We just don't know. Call it a 50-50 right now. if he doesn't go, Van Jefferson is awfully intriguing, just from a pure volume standpoint. But a guy who plays his best football is best used on downfield routes, take longer to develop. For these Rams, like how much of that are we going to be are they going to be doing in 2023? I'd rather wait and see. Even if Kupp doesn't go, I don't really want to mess with Van Jefferson week one. What he has done in the NFL has been pretty well restricted to, Stafford just throwing it as far as he can and Jefferson running under it. Like that's been his calling card. That's kind of dead in the NFL broadly, unless you're like a uniquely well set up offense to do it, like the Dolphins. The Rams couldn't be any less set up to do that. Stafford is on his last legs. And not for nothing, Joseph Noteboom, who tore his Achilles last year, and we've been keeping an eye on his progress. He is still on the injury report. He is no sure thing to go in week one. Rob Havenstein, the other tackle, got a stinger in practice this week. He's looking very questionable. You might just want to fade the entire Rams passing game outside of like Tyler Higbee week one. I mean, early on the Rams could look a lot like the early 2022 Rams passing game wise. So that means you have to figure out a whole lot of Cam Akers in week one, and I definitely like it. Like the Rams, whatever weirdness that Akers and maybe Darrell Henderson and Sean McVay had in their hate triangle for a early portion of 2022 seems to have been smoothed over. Akers was phenomenal down the stretch behind this same kind of crummy offensive line. So certainly if Kupp is out, like you have to start Akers, even if it's 3.5, 4 yards a carry, like he's gonna see the ball 20 times. Like you can't put a price on that these days. And the Seahawks defense is not super imposing on the run D front. So definitely like Akers, really regardless, because again, like the offensive line, they're very vulnerable. They got it. I have to think that they know they got to run the ball. Love Akers. On the Seahawks side, JSN, despite the wrist injury, is back at practice. Fade. Do not go near JSN in week one. I don't see the snaps. I don't see him having access to the kind of volume that ultimately we definitely see for JSN. Week one, you almost definitely have better options. Use them. DK and Lockett. I mean, I've said my piece on DK. Post Russ, I don't buy that he's ever going to return to the elite touchdown scoring rate that he enjoyed with Russ. And I just think JSN is going to eat more into him than he is into Lockett. But with JSN banged up and in his first game in the NFL, in the real NFL, you could definitely do it. I mean, whatever. You took DK in the fourth round, you got to start him. But how optimistic I am, even in week one, again, like prior to 2022, you could count on DK Metcalf to score you a touchdown more often than not. I think those days are done. So he needs a lot of volume, and he got volume last year, but those days may be coming to an end as JSN comes on, as the season wears on. I love Lockett. Lockett, we've underestimated him for years. It's time to just stop. He's Tyler Lockett. He's almost elite. He's going to go in the Hall of Very Good when it's all said and done. He is about to turn 31. It's kind of sneaking up on us, but no reason to think he's going to slow down. All of a sudden have him turn into a pumpkin on us. Can definitely start him as a wide receiver 3 with a fair degree of confidence. Geno Smith, you took him kind of like the Jared Goff, Kirk Cousins tier quarterbacks for sure. You can put him out there. The Rams defense, Aaron Donald's side is nothing to really get too concerned about. Dave Canales leaves. The tackles are still not very good. It would not surprise me for Geno to take a small step back, but I'm not saying it's going to happen either. Week one, if you want to start him, if you have like our buddy Pack fan, like he loves to do, has the Jared Goff, Geno Smith combo pack. If you like one matchup more than the other, take the matchup play. Week one, Goff versus Geno. Goff is the play, I think, because it's trending for more of a shootout than Seahawks Rams. It would not surprise me for it to devolve into like a 19-16, 20-17 type kind of war of attrition-y type of game script. So not shying away from Geno, just like relative to like a Jared Goff, for example. I'd rather start Goff week 1. All right, Dolphins Chargers. Could it be A-Chain season week 1? We shall see. So Jeff Wilson is out. Myles Gaskin is off the roster. And the endless parade of Dolphins running backs seems to be at an end. It's going to be probably Mostert and A-Chain week 1 in this backfield. A-Chain is still banged up, but he's taken off the non-contact jersey, so he's at least doing real football things again at practice this week. He's trending toward playing. Obviously, you got to double check Saturday and or Sunday on his status to make sure that he's really going to go. He's definitely a risk to be like a surprise game day inactive as a rookie, diminutive back. They don't want his shoulder to become like a chronic thing. Would not surprise me at all if he winds up missing this game. But if he goes, he's very tantalizing because it's him or Mostert. Mostert's a great play too, but this is Raheem Mostert. Like he's prone to injuries himself. How much work are they going to put on him if A-Chain is able to go? We don't really know. We know they like A-Chain a lot. They like Mostert a lot too, but they took A-Chain even though they had Mostert and Jeff Wilson. So it'll be interesting to see how quickly A-Chain phases in if he goes. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, yes, sure. Tua Tagovailoa. I mean, you got to play him if you took him as your QB1. It would not super surprise me. The Chargers are good. The Chargers have a good defense. They are going on the road here. The sheer production of the receivers, we kind of conflate that with meaning that Tua is like a surefire thing in fantasy. He did lay some duds last week, even before the concussion issues and everything, and Terron Armstead gets banged up down the stretch. So I mean, if I had Tua and took him as like my back end quarterback 1, I'm not shying away from starting him here. But I don't know how stoked I am on the road against a pretty good Chargers defense. I might, if I had like Tua and Goff, I might even play Goff over him here. So on the Chargers side, I would not start Quentin Johnston this week. He's a rookie, and my concerns about his ability to adapt to the NFL game have definitely been pretty much mitigated. But he is on the rawer side of first-round rookie receivers these days, and Josh Palmer's had a hell of a camp, and they've named him the number 3 receiver at least to start. That may have just been like a veteran deferential type show of respect thing. Probably was. But I believe that he's going to see the field more, certainly the first week or two, than Johnston. Johnston could goose egg hard. I really wouldn't risk it. The floor is just too low. I mean, if you took him in best ball, ride the snake, but I would not trot him out there in real fantasy football this week. Mike Williams, I'm kind of into Mike Williams, at least until Quentin Johnston really established himself as that new hotness. The Chargers have a directive from on high. We got to get vertical. We cannot be wasting Justin Herbert, dinking and dunking underneath all game long, all season long. That's foolishness. Other than like Quentin Johnston, like nobody in this offense figures to benefit more from getting back vertical than Mike Williams, and he's healthy. So Mike Williams is healthy. Blanking on the cornerback that the Dolphins just brought over from the Rams. He is. I love it when my Jalen Ramsey. Jalen Ramsey is obviously out until deep into the season, if he plays at all this season. And I believe that the Dolphins have some other injuries in the secondary too. So there's no real reason to be worried about like the Dolphins defense here. I would start Williams. Obviously, you're starting Allen. He's a killer play here. The pace that Keenan Allen finished 2022 on, we unfortunately can't really reasonably expect that to continue, but it could. I mean, he finished the year on like a almost 1,500 yard pace when he finally got healthy. So if that were to continue, he would be an unbelievable value, even going in like the 3rd, 4th round like he did in a lot of drafts. So yeah, like Keenan Allen here for sure. Gerald Everett, whatever. He continues to be Gerald Everett. Austin Eckler, yeah, I think you're going to start him. Packers Bears. I think Packers Bears is going to be a shootout. I really do. I mean, the Bears. This is a huge game for them. It's the Packers. They need to kill this boogeyman in the worst way. Home opener against the hated Packers. Bears are going to show up. They're going to show up in a big way. Field should have a big game. I think Jordan Love goes punch for punch with him. This, to me, looks every bit like a 38-35 type, 35-31 type of, at least quasi barn burner for sure. I would start Jordan Love with absolutely no hesitation. The Bears defense ain't nothing to worry about. I'm definitely starting Aaron Jones. You could even squeeze A.J. Dillon into the lineup here. The Packers should run the ball quite a bit. And obviously, with the news that Romeo Doubs, he could have, a deathbed revival here and manage to play in this game, but I really wouldn't count on it. With Doubs out, Christian Watson to the moon. You were starting him anyway, but now you are starting him so much more enthusiastically. Maybe we get our Christian Watson present right in week 1, guys. Like we deserve. Fantasy gods might let us have something we deserve for once. Christian Watson is definitely going to goose egg on us all now that I said that. I'll eat like 8 Christian Watson goose eggs across my 8 fantasy teams this year, week 1, and I'll deserve it. On the Bears side, Fields, boom, send him. DJ Moore, boom, send him. DJ Moore should have a huge game, even in the custody of Jair Alexander. Jair Alexander is not like the Revis Island type of nightmare cornerback at this stage. I don't think. Stephon Diggs got the better of him big time when they faced off last year. Jair Alexander is still very good, and it's not good news that DJ Moore is probably going to have him all over him here. But for Fields and Moore, the whole notion is that they are going to have like a Hurts, AJ Brown type of connection where they're just willing to let talent let it ride on talent and offensive inertia and the fact that the run game forces defenses to stop flooding the back end with smaller defenders, defensive backs and nickel backs and whatnot, and that they're able to get more one-on-one situations. And I think Fields and Moore one-on-one with almost anybody can work more often than not. DJ Moore is a surefire start in week 1 for sure. Gibbs says DJ is going to take his lunch. I agree. I would start Moore as my wide receiver 2. Zero hesitation in week 1. Let's get the party started with DJ Moore. As for the running backs, yeah, it sure looks like Khalil Herbert has quietly consolidated power here in the Bears backfield, at least to start, we think. Foreman does make the team. I kind of floated the idea that just forest for the trees that Foreman could be odd man out here, but he makes the team. So some sort of committee between Foreman and Herbert wouldn't super surprise, but I think at the very least Herbert takes the lion's share, like a 65-35, maybe worst case like 60-40 type of divide between the two of them. I don't think Roschon Johnson is going to have significant conventional involvement in the offense early on as like a true, formation running back. I do believe that he's going to do some weird gadget, wildcatish, Taysom Hillish type stuff, especially inside the opposing team's 20-yard line. That I buy. And he could even be kind of a nuisance to Herbert's access to goal line work. That would not super surprise me. But I don't think Roschon is going to see more than like maybe 2 or 3 real, normal rush attempts per game, at least early on. I just don't see it. Like, what's the need? Like, they have Herbert and Foreman for that. They're both more than capable of being, handling all that work. So that's just my gut. Roschon is, I'm one of the most pessimistic people on Roschon. So grain of salt for sure. If you love Roschon, hey, love you some Roschon. Go get your boy. Obviously, you can't start Roschon week 1 though. Anywhere, sorry. Elsewhere in the Bears passing game, Darnell Mooney. Man, it's hard to see it. It's hard to see there being enough left over for him. And Chase Claypool. Chase Claypool is looking like he's actually probably going to miss this game. Honestly, he's got a hamstring injury. So right now, I would imagine, if I had to guess, I would say Claypool's not going to play. Might not play week 2. The Claypool experiment may go south on us in a hurry here in Chicago. Kmet's a fine, low end. Kmet is kind of the poster child for punting tight end with style. He's got a path certainly to another 6-7 touchdowns in 2023 for sure. Ben from the Discord absolutely loves Komet. He's got tons of Komet. So if he goose eggs, be sure to rub it in Ben's face and tell him Chode sent you. From there on to our last two games. So Cowboys at Giants. As you guys know, I have a birth defect. I was born a Cowboys fan. There is no cure. A lot of people think the Cowboys are almost a shoo-in to win this game. I got a sinking feeling that the Cowboys are going to cowboy the piss out of this game, and the Giants are going to wind up taking it. Again, fantasy side, not necessarily super relevant, but I think the Giants, obviously, that we have to assume, or at least I'm inclined to assume, that the Giants continue their 2022 recipe for winning football games of like slowing the game down and turning it into like a really gross, boggy, like war of attrition, and then like just suddenly opening up another segment of the playbook late in the fourth quarter, catching the defense by surprise and winning like 20-16. I definitely think the Giants want to get into like a grind fest like that. Boards. We did talk about Gibbs. Don't rewind to that part of the video. I don't think you're going to really be too appreciative of it. No, I did not besmirch him. I said that as far as the Lions' backfield, I think Week 1 absolutely sets up as a smash spot for David Montgomery. As for Gibbs, it could go either way. I just don't think we know enough about what the Lions are telling us, like, you don't know how we're going to use Jahmyr Gibbs. I agree. I don't know how they're going to use Jahmyr Gibbs, at least, and certainly not Week 1. Huge game for the Lions. If they're not going to win this game, they at least have to be respectable. Keep it within arm's reach for at least half the game into the second half. A rookie running back, undersized, kind of a wide back type player, would not super surprise me if he had a quiet first game in the NFL, in first real game. I'm not saying it'll definitely happen. I'm just saying that it's not a sure thing for me. There's no scenario to me where it makes sense for the Lions to seek to go punch for punch with Patrick Mahomes. There's no way that that's going to go well for them. They want to keep the ball on the ground. They want to absolutely win the time of possession battle. They want to rob Mahomes of a drive or two. What's more compatible with that strategy? Peppering Gibbs with targets or hammering them in the trenches with the elite interior of that offensive line against a Chris Jones-less defensive line? What makes more sense? Port says boo. Highest total of the week. Boo. Sure. It could wind up devolving into like a 41-38 type just track meet, like Chiefs Bills in the divisional round a couple years ago. Absolutely possible. I'm cautioning with a little bit of caution. All right, back to Cowboys Giants. As on the Cowboys side, CD, he's a no-brainer. You're starting him. Pollard, he's a no-brainer. You're starting him. Dak against the Giants, I don't love it. I just don't love it. Dak was I think he's kind of a slow starter in general, and against a sneaky competent Giants defense. The Giants defense did not rack up a lot of counting stats, sacks and interceptions and whatnot last year, but they were the quintessential bend don't break unit. Would not surprise me for Dak to have kind of a quiet night / off night here. Don't love the spot. And again, I think the Giants are going to pull off the upset here. Brandon Cooks, I know there's a lot of guys that love Brandon Cooks as like a wide receiver 3, cheapo cheat code, and he could absolutely turn out to be that. But I just don't have a good feeling here, especially Week 1. Like the Cowboys told us for most of the offseason, almost nobody's going to run the ball more than them. What if they weren't lying? Like, what is going to be left after Lamb gets his? How much is going to be left to scatter between Cooks? Michael Gallup is obviously still getting a lot of money. He's gonna be out there. What if Jake Ferguson comes on strong early on and sees 5 or 6 targets? I love Jake Ferguson as a scam tight end play here as he tries to consolidate control of the tight end job in Dallas before Schoonmaker can get off the mat. Cooks is just kind of I would seek out other options Week 1 personally. On the Giants side, you guys know how I feel about Dimes, and Boards and some of the other guys in the Discord have recently softened my resolve that Dimes just ain't it, and you want to keep your distance from this guy in fantasy football, if at all possible. Dimes only threw for 3,200 yards last year. Like, if he does that again, the Giants have to start to deem the Jones era as having potentially run its course. Like, he's shown us everything he can do for us. We need to start looking at, who are the quarterbacks coming out in 2024. So yes, the receiving options are much better. Waller, Jalen Hyatt, some other guys, and they bring back some of Dimes' favorite guys from last year in Darius Slayton and Isaiah Hodgins. So I'm belatedly kind of revising my passing projections up a bit for Dimes. Not revising them up a lot. I'm saying maybe he'll get to like 3,500, 3,600 yards, which is still nothing to really write home about. But for Dimes, it would be kind of a revelation. So in week one against the Cowboys, if for some reason you have to, you could do a lot worse. Like, yes, he's gonna scam his way to like probably 50 or 60 yards on the ground, which is very relevant in fantasy football. But this is the Cowboys defense. I mean, Micah Parsons is probably the most disruptive force in football now. Would not at all surprise me if this turned into like a 16-13 grind fest where everybody short of CeeDee Lamb owners come away with an L in week one, wishing that they had gone with other options. Barkley, Cowboys' run defense was nothing to really be too afraid of in 2022, and they didn't really do anything about that. So, I mean, Barkley, whatever, he's a top 5 running back. You were starting him anyway, but don't be too concerned about it being the Cowboys. Waller, I mean, you guys know how I feel about Waller. I just don't buy it. I don't trust Dimes enough. But if you've got him, you've got him. So the Cowboys weren't super tough on tight ends. So sure, trot Darren Waller out there. I'm not expecting big things, but maybe he gets a touchdown. That's what you're hoping for with a lot of tight ends anyway. Why not Waller? Gibbs, I can't tell if you're raising your hand saying, yes, I have Waller, or yes, I have a question. If you have a question, just type it out. As for the other Giants receivers, I don't see how you can justify starting any of them week one. The Cowboys' pass defense last year was pretty tight. The Giants don't want to go there. There's even if the Giants want to throw more in 2023, they don't want to get into some sort of slugfest with the Cowboys. They want to run the ball. They're not going to throw it a lot. You can't start Jalen Hyatt week one. Like, that'd be crazy. Let's see. What else? Last game, Monday night, Bills-Jets. That's going to be a good one. Josh Allen. Man, Josh Allen against the Jets. Obviously, he's Josh Allen. You can't start him. But I think... Oh, sorry. Gibbs was waving at boards. You guys talk amongst yourselves. Allen against the Jets... Man, I think it's going to be a quiet day at the office for Allen. I mean, you can't really hardly sit him, but the Jets are so amped up. Home opener for the Bills. I think it's going to be a quiet day at the office for Allen. I really do. Diggs on volume alone. Like, Diggs has been a big time squeaky wheel all offseason. Everybody knows it. One of the best ways to cure that is to feed the guy the ball. Even going against Sauce Gardner, they're going to throw at him. Like, there's just no scenario where Diggs is going to get less than like 6 targets. I don't think. So, will Diggs get the better of that matchup? He has a bit of a reputation for like having his best games against the best corners, so he has that going for him. But Sauce Gardner is Sauce Gardner. So again, you're not starting Diggs. You're not going to bench Diggs ever, barring injury. But I'm not super worried about the Gardner matchup. I mean, Gardner's going to erase a lot of receivers in 2023. I'm less concerned about it with Diggs than I will be with a lot of other guys that are going to have to deal with him in 2023. Elsewhere, I just can't see it for Kincaid. There is definitely a contingent of people that are into Kincaid and into Kincaid all the way, into him early. I think I saw Billiam in the Discord agitating for him, saying, oh, Kincaid's going to score a touchdown week one. You want to roll the dice there? Be my guest, but we're talking about a rookie tight end in a full-blown committee with a contracted, a moneyed incumbent in Dawson Knox. hell no. I don't want any part of that crap. Get that out of here. No Dawson Knox for me. No Dawson Knox for me either, but definitely no Dalton Kincaid. Gabe Davis, I mean, if you're on the Gabe Davis reunion tour bus, you're on. And if you're not, you're not. Again, he's a best ball guy, and we're talking, a weekly lineup world. Can't super advocate for it, but you never know. On the Jets side, I checked because you got to check these things. I checked before I got on here and saw that Saleh's most recent comments on Brees were that he expected him to play. Obviously, that opens the door for the possibility that Brees is not going to play. I think Brees will play, but you can't tell me Brees is going to see anything close to the workload Dalvin Cook is going to see week one. I would probably sit Brees, honestly, at this point. I know that's borderline sacrilege, and I could absolutely be steering you wrong with that advice, but I just don't trust it a lick. I'm going to stick to what I settled on as making the most sense here months ago, which is what are the Jets trying to do? The Jets are like conference championship game or bust. Brees Hall is, if he's not their best player, he is their second best player. They brought in Dalvin Cook to mitigate how much they have to rely on Brees early on, as he's still within like the 12-month window of the ACL tear. Just don't do it. If you have Rachaad White, if you have David Montgomery, if you have Jamal Williams is banging the table for earlier, all those guys over Brees week one, just don't chance it. I mean, Brees, I would be surprised if Brees saw double-digit touches in this game. I would be genuinely surprised. So do with that what you will. Dalvin Cook, I mean, he's the AFC Jamal Williams in terms of like early season scams. He's going to see 20 touches. Get Dalvin Cook out there. He's a running back one in this matchup for sure, because the New York Jets are here to run the ball, and they're here to run the ball a lot, and they are here to win by like 4 or 7 points over and over and over again whenever possible in 2023. And they're going to try and do that week one and try and beat the Bills like 20-13, something kind of chintzy like that. So what does that mean? A whole lot of Dalvin Cook with a little bit of Brees Hall, and if he's able to go, he's banged up too. He got a deep thigh contusion a week or so ago. Israel Abanikanda and Michael Carter. Actually, come to think of it, even if he's able to go, Abanikanda might wind up a game day inactive. But regardless, like, the Jets have tons of running backs, and they clearly are going to use them because they ain't going to drop Aaron Rodgers back 40 times by design. That's not happening. Outside of Garrett Wilson, I don't really trust any piece of this passing game until further notice. Alan Lazard, even in full PPR, you can have him. I do not want any part of him in this game, and I don't want any part of him in general until he gives us a reason to believe that he's anything more than he's clearly been so far in his NFL career, which is just a jag. And now he's a very rich jag, but he is like the quintessential just a guy, like, clearly. And yes, he is the guy that Aaron Rodgers did the lay on hands and said, "I'm going to get you paid, my son. Don't worry about it." That's not enough for me. It's just not. And Gibbs says Randall Cobb season. Yeah, Cobb is going to be in the slot. Cool. Don't super care. There's no way you can trust it in fantasy. I've been obviously like a borderline tinfoil hat guy for Tyler Conklin. Even Conklin, like, pursue other options here until we have any cause to believe that Aaron Rodgers is going to throw more than he did last year when he only went for 3,700 yards in 17 games. Like, for me, it is so cut and dried. Like, unless they just completely take a right-hand turn on us, the Jets want to run the ball like hell, get us 7 or 10 point lead, and just choke teams to death with a fantastic defense on repeat. They do not want to go punch for punch with the Bills or the Dolphins or the Chiefs or the Bengals. They don't win those games. I'm sorry. Like, Aaron Rodgers at this point with suspect tackles and 40 years old, that's just not the way that the Jets get to where it is they want to go, which is a deep playoff run and preferably a division title with some home field advantage in the playoffs. So outside of Dalvin Cook and Garrett Wilson, it's hard to be excited about any of these guys. Bills defense, even if Von Miller is limited or out for this game, which I'll be honest, I did not check. But obviously he's coming off of a late season ACL tear, so it won't be surprising if Von Miller may have been pupped, actually, for all I know at the moment. yeah, it's just outside of Dalvin. And yes, down the line, obviously Brees, but at week 1, it's Dalvin, it's Garrett Wilson. Try to avoid the rest. On the Bills side, Allen, Diggs, James Cook. James Cook is interesting. Obviously, the focus is going to be on slowing the Allen to Diggs connection and just keeping the Bills from ripping them with chunk plays. James Cook could be an interesting play here. Obviously, the Jets' run defense is no joke either, but I'm oddly open to going with James Cook here as like a flex play. We believe in the talent for sure. Damian Harris is just not super imposing. We don't think. We could be wrong. I mean, let's be real. Like, we could absolutely find out that it turns out James Cook and Damian Harris are in something like a full-blown 50-50 split. But even if that's the case, like James Cook, we have to assume is going to have access to like all the passing down work. James Cook is a nice play here. I think that he could be something along the lines of the Bills' secret weapon to trying to catch the Jets defense by surprise. I'm fine with James Cook here, even though vaunted Jets defense in psycho deep leagues. Sure, you could try out Damian Harris. All right. Well, that pretty much is a wrap for me. I am sure I'm like 45 minutes over on time, as is tradition. Thank you guys for tuning in. And if you have any questions, you know how to hit me up in the Discord. And we will see you back. I'm not sure if we're going to do it tomorrow or Wednesday or what, but we will give you a RLD Year 2 preview of the Week 1 matchups with some Year 1 lore mixed in. Hopefully I'll have Ben for that. If I don't have Ben, I'll twist boards or packs or TP's arms into joining in, and it'll be a fun time. A little bit different, a little bit of fantasy lore for that episode. Thanks for